clueless historically too. You know, the serfs in the USSR, who were pretty much all Caucasian, they weren't emancipated till the late 1800s. Like, you don't have to go very far back in anybody's racial history to find the equivalent of slavery. I mean, okay, serfs weren't slaves. It's, yeah, they were. They were. They were sold with the property, you know, and so that's 150 years ago. Slavery was not some exception perpetrated on the world by the United States. Every damn society virtually that ever existed up until we invented machines ran on slave labor. So saying, well, you know, some groups have been affected more by slavery in the recent past than others. I think that's fair to say. But the problem is well, what exactly do you do about that then? And who defines it? And it's a big mess. And besides, none of it's to be trusted anyways, because all it is postmodern neo-Marxist sleight of hand. You know, Marxism got demolished in the 70s. Demolished, ruined. It was never to rise again. The postmodernists, sneaky French intellectuals, played a little sleight of hand. Okay, it's not the working class against the wealthy. It's the victims against the oppressors. Great. All we did was move the goalpost slightly. Now we get to play the same game. Yeah, well, it's a lot easier than thinking. So, yeah.
And because we've had so many people who escaped communism, why do
That's what they thought.
Well, exactly. So why do you think those stories aren't getting out? Because
God, that's a good question. I teach about the Gulag Archipelago in my personality class, of all the dopey places to teach it. It's like at the beginning of the class, I say, well, how many of you know that 30 million Soviet citizens were destroyed through internal repression between 1919 and 1959. It's like 4 people put up their hands. I say, well, how do you know? I watched your lectures on YouTube. You know, that's not taught in schools. Why? I know why. It's because the bloody intellectual leftists have never apologized for their complicity in the catastrophes of the 20th century. The Germans apologized. Sorry about the Nazis. Well, the left-wing intellectuals, they say, oh, well, that wasn't real Marxism. It's like, oh, okay, how many corpses have to pile up around you before you're willing to question your beloved ideological presuppositions and face your resentment and your narcissism and your desire for destruction? You don't like people anyways. The planet has too many of them. You know, the Club of Rome, when they talked about the population explosion that was going to wipe out the planet by the year 2000, they said outright that human beings were a cancer on the planet. Lots of people think that. It's like, oh boy, let's put the atom bomb phone in your hands. Human beings are a cancer on the planet. What a hell of a thing to say. You can say that to a 4-year-old? I saw a bloody professor at Queen's University tell a whole room full of 18-year-olds that if they had an ethical fiber in their body, they wouldn't have any kids, or they'd only have one, because all they're doing is going out there and raping the planet. It's like, what the hell? I don't understand that. It's like human beings are hard on the planet, but it's pretty damn hard on us in return. You know, it's like we're just sort of trying not to die too miserably, and we make a bit of a mess while doing it. It's like, yeah, Christ, we've only known for 50 years that we were disrupting the oceans. How fast do you think we can learn? You know, 100 years ago, Thomas Huxley, who was a great biologist, said the oceans are so plentiful that there's not a chance we could ever put a dent in them. So that's only 100 years ago. 50 years ago, we thought, oh man, there's more of us and we're better at this than we thought. It's like, okay, how fast do you expect people to learn? You know, 1 generation, 1 year? We're trying to do our best. Most people are trying to do their best. And some people are trying to do their worst, but most people are trying to do their best. And so we should have a little compassion, a little sympathy for human beings instead of considering ourselves like raping, patriarchal, oppressive destroyers of the world. Jesus.
You don't like that label?
God, it's so cruel. It's so mean. There's no sympathy there. It's like most of the people I know are struggling hard to get by. And usually, the other thing about people that's so interesting, and you really learn this if you're a clinical psychologist, is that every single one of you in this room has at least one serious problem that you're laboring under. It's like, and that's why the whole handicap thing is a big problem as well. It's like, okay, you're not mentally ill this moment, but you will be. You'll be depressed or anxious, or you'll hit some trauma in your life that'll take you out. And even if you happen to be in the small minority of people who are physically healthy their whole life and emotionally healthy, you're going to have a family member, a child, a parent with Alzheimer's, a child who's got some illness. You know, you're going to be carrying some vicious burden for most of your life. And most of the time you're going to stumble off to work anyhow and do your damn job and contribute to society. It's like, I can't even believe that our system works, because you just have to talk to someone for 5 minutes and they tell you, well, here's the 3 horrible things that happened to me in the last year. And they're horrible things. Their mother died of, like, you know, some degenerative neurological disease. Those are particularly entertaining. And their father was alcoholic and used to beat them up. And their sister's schizophrenic. And it's like, ugh. But away they go and do their minor heroism for the day. And the lights stay on. It's like, you know, human beings, we're admirable creatures, despite the fact that we're, you know, finite and useless and vicious and all of those things. So.
La revolución necesita de tu ayuda. Deposita, suscríbete, comparte los videos, apórtanos en el Patreon para que podamos seguir luchando por la libertad.